Fantastic. You've found a home you like. So what's the next step? It's writing a contract. Extremely important things in Florida when you're writing a contract. So you need to understand many things. We have what's called an as-is contract, which is what I'm going to talk about today because it's the most prevalently used contract in a resale market. Now, if you're buying new construction, you use their contracts, which are very complex, and they don't give consumers a lot of rights. So it's important for you to understand what's in a contract. So I'm going to go through some important parts of an as-is contract and even on a builder contract that they don't necessarily talk about. And that is understanding your critical dates. So one is a loan commitment. Typically in a contract, it defaults to 30 days of having a loan commitment. Meaning if you're getting a loan, that lender has to provide a letter and it must be given to the seller within the parameters of the time frame that's on that contract. If you don't do that, then you're waiving your right to have that as a contingency in a contract. So what does that mean to you? When you have a contingency, it allows you to cancel a contract and get your escrow deposit back, providing that that's how the contract is written. So it's really, really important that you understand what's in that contract. So a few things to know. One, you usually have 3 days to get your escrow deposit, which is part of a commitment of showing that you're serious about purchasing this home. That's going to be a wire from you to a title company, and we'll go through the details of that. But you need to be real careful who you wire money to. The other thing is what I talked about was the loan commitment date. So we have to make sure that we don't miss that date. If for some reason you're not going to meet that date because either additional paperwork needs to go to the lender or there's an issue with underwriting, because a lot of times they ask a lot of questions, okay? They want a lot of documentation. If that's the case, let's just say we're running short on time. Extremely important to get an extension. So long as we get that documented, buyer signs, seller signs, emails are not acceptable. So it has to be part of the contract. You have to get that addendum and you need to do that extension. Without that extension, then that's your drop dead date. And if you don't have that loan commitment, you're giving up your right to your escrow deposit and you don't necessarily have a right to get it back. Now there's other things that allow for that. What is an inspection period? So within the contract, it allows for you to have an inspection period. During that timeline, it could be 3 days, 5 days, 15 days. It's whatever a buyer and seller agree to. But during that timeline, you have a right to cancel that contract at your sole discretion in the state of Florida under the terms of the as-is contract. But it must be marked and you must have a date on there and everybody must agree to it. And that's how that works. So there's a few things in a contract that protect you. Now with a builder, that's not the case. New construction, different world. So every builder has a different contract. Most of them, you're not going to get your escrow deposit back, depending on the circumstances. But you do have those same critical dates with the exception of the inspection period. So builders tend to have 2 years to complete a home. They could tell you it could be ready in 8 months, but their contract tends to give them 2 years. Super important to work with somebody that knows this process. And I'll talk about new construction in another video because it's a totally different thing. But I just want you to understand the terms of the contract, the things you need to look for. Now I'm going to talk about what happens in an inspection. So stay tuned.